All right. Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Okay, so let's do some coding together, shall we? I have a very simple, bare bones Django app. It's gonna have two apps that I've created with Python manage.py start app. And the first one is users, and the users is basically gonna hold any API modules. That's the serializers and the view sets for this one, for the built-in Django's user model. And I have the second app which holds the task model, and they're going to be related by a foreign key. So in my installed apps, I went ahead and added these two to the apps, and then we're going to be using Django REST framework for this. So in the REST framework settings, I just put a default permission class for is authenticated or read only, just so that when we're writing our view sets, we don't have to write this in like many view sets. We can just use this, and I don't have to declare the permissions in the view sets. Okay, so very straightforward URL patterns over here. I have the users, and then that'll go to the users URLs, and then tasks, and then that'll go to the task URLs. Okay. And in the tasks, I have a very simple model. It's the description field. It's just a description of what the task is, and the owner, which is a foreign key to the user model, and that'll be how I can relate the task and the users together. And I also declared a related name, which I will explain why I use that later on. Okay. And then if you look at the users directory over here, I deleted the admin and the views and the tests, just because we're not going to need them for this demonstration. And so let's go to the serializer real quick. I have a hyperlinked model serializer, which we'll be using throughout this video. And that includes the URL, the description, and the owner. Super bare bone, okay? And in the users, I am using the default router for my view sets. And the view set is super simple. I just have the query set to return the objects, or the task objects. The serializer class is the task serializer, which is this over here. Oops. And I don't even need to add the permission classes, because, like I said, it's already default in the settings. Okay. And if I go to the users, same thing for the users, except I do want an API relation for this, because when I rendered up the users, which I'll just show you right now, once I have the users, which comes with the ID and the username, I will also want it to show the tasks that the user has. So in order for me to do that, I have to make a hyperlinked related field, and that routes to the task. Okay. And the arguments are, I have to include the view name, which by default is the app name dash detail, or not app name, the app model, which is task, so it's task detail. And then I'm going to do an only read only equals true, and many equals true. That'll just kind of be standard as provided in the REST framework documentation. Okay. And then the URLs is pretty much the same as the tasks one. Super simple. Using a default router, register it with the view set, and then here's my view set. Again, no permission classes needed, because it's already set by the settings right over here. Okay, it's right over here. This, so I don't need this. Okay, so now if I go to the localhost port 8000 and look at both the task list and the user list, everything works pretty fine. So I have the URL over here. If I click on the users one, let me just restart my terminal quick. Okay, so if I go to the users one, It shows me my tasks and what tasks I have for it. I have the username, ID, URL, and it works for all 3 of my users, okay? And if I go to my tasks, I have 6 tasks. I have the 3 users, and if I click on them, it all works fine, okay? So now, what if I want to add namespaces for my apps? Because let's say I'm using the standard Django templates, and in the templates, I want to use the following syntax: URL, tasks, detail, and this will take me to a detail view that is for task. And I want to use this because if I also have a user detail page, I can separate them and distinguish them by the namespace like so, right? Oops, like that, okay? Or if I'm doing like a reverse or redirect, I can also do it like redirect. And then I could redirect to the namespace tasks equals detail. I can also do it that way, okay? So let's say I'm using either of one of those two or any other reason, or I have no reason at all. I just want to use a namespace. So let's go and try to do that. So in the urls.py, which I'll be doing it in the apps URLs, I'll do app name equals this one will be tasks, keep it super simple. And then for the users, I'm gonna do app name equals users, okay? And now let's see what happens. Now for both of them, I get an improperly configured error. It's saying that the URL resolve, or it cannot resolve the URL for hyperlink relationship using the view name user equals detail. So if you see over here, they're trying to look and route to the view name task detail, which I don't have anymore, because now that I'm using the namespace, it's expecting something like users : user detail. And this is where I want to get to, but this is what they're trying to find, and they're saying I can't find user dash detail. So Django doesn't know that the namespace is being used, and I need for some way to make sure that they know that. So what I did is I'm just going to do a simple Google search because the user detail is most commonly gonna be looked up. I'm just gonna copy paste this Django and just put that in. And I'm just gonna go to the first Stack Overflow and see what I can find. So this guy has the same error coming up, and it looks like he's doing the same thing. And my views, objects.all. And I'm just gonna go straight to the answer with the 99 upvotes. It says it's because hyperlinked model serializer is trying to resolve the URL, but you don't have the user detail, hence exception. So he provides, or this person, it's actually Carlton Gibson. He works for Django Framework. I actually didn't realize that. But so he offers 2 ways to solve it. He says, would not just registering the user view set with the router solve your issue? So it looks like this guy is using the list create API view instead of a view set. And so he's saying if you use the view set, it'll be solved, but we're already using the view set, so that's not the answer. He's also saying you can define the user field on your bottle serializer to explicitly use the serializer rather than trying to resolve the URL. So he says, look at the docs. So I'm just going to open up the docs. And this is what he's referring to. Right over here. So he wants to use the serializer in another serializer. I've tried that, and let me see if I can just try it again. So right now I'm using a hyperlinked related field. I'm just going to comment this out and use the task serializer. So I'm just going to have to import that real quick. I'll just do a simple import tasks.serializers import task serializer. So task serializer equals task serializer, and let's see, maybe I have to write read only equals true, many false. I'll just try that. Yep, many equals true, because remember we do want to return many tasks that the owner or the user has if they have one. So let's try it, and it still doesn't work. Okay, so I'm just gonna put that back, and so these two don't work right now. So let's go to another one. Cannot resolve the relationship for using name view. And so for this one, it says, looking at the docs, I believe you have to use the hyperlinked related field, which I do have. And over here, they're using the view name, and they're using the namespace colon name. So let's actually change this then. So now I'm using the namespace and see if that works, and it doesn't. So right now I'm saying whenever I look at the user task actually, or the user list, I want the hyperlink for the tasks, the one that shows everything for the tasks, to go to this one. So this view name is correct, but Django is still going to the regular tasks.detail view name. So it still doesn't know that the namespace is there. So what I'm gonna try to do is go look at the documentation a little bit. Maybe go to the routers and see how I can use namespace in the URLs. So I'm just gonna do a Control F and type up namespace. It says you may use include with an application namespace, or both an application and instance namespace. So you can do it, but it says note, if using namespacing with hyperlinked serializers, you'll also need to ensure that the view name parameters are correctly that they correctly reflect the namespace. So let's see how you do that. In examples above, you need to include a parameter such as view name equals app names colon user detail. So in the examples above, okay, it's not really showing me how to do that. But it does say that the automatic view name generates the model name / detail. Okay, so I need it to go from this, which is right now how it is, to this. So it also says, by the way, it also says unless your model's names actually clash, you may be better off not namespacing your Django REST framework views when using hyperlinked serializers. Correct. So I am better off not using them because of all this error that I'm getting, okay? So let's see. Now, I do know what the issue is, and what the issue is, I need my serializers to realize that the URL and the tasks for my user serializers, they have to be overwritten to use the view name in a manner that adds the namespacing. So maybe what I can do is use this thing that I found online called keyword arguments or extra keyword arguments. So let's Django REST framework extra keyword arguments serializers. So this is what I found while looking through the documentation. First, I saw that number one, by looking at that documentation that we just looked at, where it says you have to override the view name. And so I tried to look through and see how can I do that. And the only way I can do that is through the serializer. So that's how I landed on this page. So if I go to Hyperlinked Model Serializer and I scroll down, I go absolute relative paths. Okay, so here it is. How hyperlinked views are determined. So how do they determine that the default, it says by default they're expected to correspond to a view name that matches the style model name dash detail. It says you can override it by using the extra keyword argument setting like so. So this is how you do it. The view name and the view name value, I guess. Okay, so that's where you get it. So let's try this. This is underneath the class meta. So it's going to be over here, and I'll do extra keyword arguments equals URL equals, and the URL is going to be a dictionary. Okay, so dictionary of view name equals, now the default is going to be task detail, right? That's how it is right now. But I want to add tasks to add the namespace. The tasks is the namespace, and this is the view name. Okay, and for a quick like regular Django reference, the view name is equivalent to views.home, name equals home. This is a URL pattern, but I'm just saying that the task detail is same thing as this. Okay, so when we override it to do this, it's basically referencing the whole reverse / redirect function, where you do in this case it's index home, like that. Okay, so I did the URLs for the hyperlink. For the URLs, I also needed to do this because the owner is a hyperlink as well. So I'm gonna add that owner, override this view name as well, because even in, well, let's not get too far ahead. Let's do user detail. Okay, and then for the user serializer, let's do the same thing. Extra keyword arguments and do URL, and it's going to be a dictionary of view name equals, what was it, tasks, task detail, and the ID is not a hyperlink, the user also is not a hyperlink, but the tasks is. It's going to return a list of hyperlinks of the tasks that the user has. So it's going to be tasks, view name, and it's going to be oh, okay. So actually, here I'll do tasks.task.detail, but if you're already caught on, yes, you're correct. This one over here actually should be users, and then user here, because we're using the user serializer for the URLs. Okay, and now let's see if this kind of fixes these errors. And there we have it. Now everything works, hopefully. If I click on the users, individual users, they work and they hold their tasks that they have. And if I go to the tasks or the task list, they are all working just fine. And now I don't think I need this anymore because I've already provided it here. So if I comment this out, let's see if it still works and doesn't break the code. User list, task list, and there we go. It works just fine. Okay, so bottom line is if you want to use namespace for your REST framework, for your serializers, if you're using a hyperlinked model serializer, use the extra keyword arguments to override the view names so that the view names or Django knows exactly where to go and get there properly. And so yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching.